Welcome back everyone. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 and see how this bad boy holds up in 2021. Now what I can tell you is that for sure this thing is still completely worth it. It's not even that old, and I would probably recommend you, if you have the money, go for it. It's not an old device at all. But it doesn't mean it's perfect, and there's some shortcomings here and there, but I do appreciate Samsung for being one of the only other tablet manufacturers that are at that scale of pretty much iPads. You can go into, a Walmart or a Best Buy and pretty much see this tablet sitting there, and you can purchase it if you want to. So that's a massive thing to keep in mind. So if you want to pick one of these things up, I'll leave a link down in the description from Amazon. You can get them from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now starting off with the front, the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 has that 11-inch LTPS TFT panel on the front. Now this is a double-edged sword, okay? For one, it has a TFT panel, which I don't know why they did this. They make beautiful OLED displays, and although it would be pretty expensive to manufacture an OLED display with this big, I understand, it would have still been nice to even have like an IPS panel or whatever the closest thing they can get to it. They make really good OLED panels, so I don't know why they didn't put one here. But on top of that, the other side of things is it has a 120Hz panel, so it kind of makes up for it in that sense. Luckily for us, the iPads also have, 120Hz panels as well, but this is another really cool thing that this specific iPad has. So I think that in and of itself is a really cool thing. The resolution is 1600 by 2560, so also a pretty big and nice sized resolution on this specific tablet as well. So that's another really cool thing about this tablet. You have USB Type-C on the bottom, you have a microSD card slot on the specific device as well, which is really cool. And on the back, you have this aluminum back on it, which still looks and feels extremely good, like I mentioned, and very little complaints about it. It feels extremely good and extremely premium as well. And on the back, you can see there's this little pen slot where you can actually go ahead and house the included S Pen inside of your tablet, so you can pretty much charge it there. And I think that's a really awesome thing. With the Apple Pencil, you have to buy it separately. With this thing, it essentially comes with it, which in and of itself is a really cool feature. It brings a lot of stuff to the table, and I could talk about this thing all day. And it is easily one of my favorite things about this tablet, the fact that it comes pre-included if you buy brand new with this specific accessory. Now you do have that camera setup on the back and on the front as well, which we'll go ahead and hit on. So it has a dual camera setup on the back, a 13 megapixel wide angle lens, then a 5 megapixel ultra wide sensor, where on the front it has that single 8 megapixel sensor. Now the back camera is overall pretty good, I never really complained about it. At least for a tablet, it's pretty decent. Like I mentioned, wide and ultra wide, so you're getting pretty much the ability to zoom in and zoom out a lot, but you don't have the ability like with a telephoto lens where you can zoom in a ton. So that's another pretty big thing to keep in mind. You do have the ability of going up to 4K at 30 though, which I think is one of my favorite things on a phone. Just having that capability is extremely awesome. Now it's definitely not 4K at 60 or 8K like some devices have, but like I mentioned, it gets the job done, and I can't really complain about it too much. So in terms of the back camera, I think it's pretty good. The front camera overall is pretty decent as well, only 1080p at 30 on that one, and again, it gets the job done. I'm not really trying to sit here and trying to think like it can do everything in the world. It's not supposed to be like a phone replacement, but for those of you who just want to get a tablet and move on with your life, this is a pretty decent option in my opinion. So in terms of the cameras, that pretty much covers it up there. Now software-wise, this is probably one of my bigger disadvantages about this specific device. I am not a fan about how this specific, software is. I feel like stock Android would have been perfect. I do like some features with One UI. I think sometimes there's some capability that, One UI has that stock Android doesn't have. But again, it's just not my cup of tea. And I would way rather much prefer something like the Samsung Galaxy, Nexus, if you guys remember that, or like the Pixel 5 and Pixel 4a software on this specific tablet. But like I mentioned, you do have some capability that this specific device have that some other devices don't. There's a lot of features built in with One UI that I think is easily a really cool thing that I'm sure a lot of people will prefer. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up in the software standpoint. Now battery life wise, this is pretty crazy. This specific tablet has a massive sized battery inside of it, an 8,000 milliamp-hour battery, which that in and of itself is a crazy big size battery to have in this type of device. I mean, this thing's gonna last forever. It's pretty similar to what we've seen before on like the iPads and stuff, but this thing has a pretty big size battery, so it's easily one of my favorite things about this phone. And like I mentioned, if you're going to be getting a tablet like this, did I say phone earlier? I meant to say tablet. When you're getting a tablet like this thing's gonna be set for a long period of time. Like it's not really gonna matter because it's gonna last for, very long amount of time in terms of battery life. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up there. Now let's go and hit on the performance, and here's what I'll tell you about this specific device. I mean, this is a very good performing device for the most part. So starting off with the chipset inside, it has that Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 5G Plus chipset, which if you remember from last year, it was the top tier flagship, chipset. It was pretty much what the 888 is now. So again, that's another big thing to keep in mind. It also has an octa-core CPU, that's a given, Adreno 650 GPU, and 6 gigs of RAM on the base model, and then 8 gigs of RAM on the 2 top tier models. So again, this is another pretty good plus point of this specific device. This specific, tablet will be able to handle everything you throw at it. So starting off, for those of you who just want, some basic type of performance from this type of tablet, if you're a student and you just want to do like some Word documents and writing out notes and different things like that, this device is going to be perfect. It's really going to be an amazing device in terms of that. Again, with One UI, there can be some problems here and there, but I think for basic tasks, it's going to be perfectly fine. Even for mid-tier tasks, if you're doing like some basic gaming and doing some like split screen multitasking kind of stuff, this specific tablet's going to be able to handle it too. And even for that top tier kind of performance where you're going to do some heavy gaming and all sorts of different things like that, like I mentioned before, this specific tablet is going to be able to handle it extremely well. This is not a tablet where it's going to be like outdated within a year. This thing's going to be lasting for a very long amount of time in terms of a performance standpoint. But the thing you do have to consider is that sooner than later, the software is going to bog it down. And I will say the 6 gig of RAM option for the base model is kind of low, for at least like a tablet. I would expect to see like 12 gigs of RAM, to be completely honest. I think it's okay for the time being, but I would have loved to seen it grow, maybe to 8 to 12, or 8 for the base tier model and then 12 to the top tier model. But again, there's nothing we can do about it at this point. But I will tell you for sure, the performance of this tablet is a very good performing tablet for sure. I liked it when I used it, and even now when I still look at it and whenever I use it very rarely, it's still good, and I still hear a lot of reviews of people saying that it's still a very good tablet as well. So in terms of performance, it's good. It's very choppy because of the One UI experience, but that's a given, but that pretty much covers it up there. And to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, is the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 still worth it in 2021? Well, pretty much what I'll tell you is, I think it's still completely worth it in this day and age. I think it's a very good tablet, but like I mentioned before, it may not be the best per dollar per value. I think there's some tablets out there that may get you a better deal. I think like the base model iPad is very good, value for sure, although it's probably not perfect either. It gets the job done and I'm pretty much a fan of it as well. But then you have tablets that kind of go up like the Samsung Galaxy Tab S7, which are extremely good value per the dollar. So I don't think you can go wrong with this tablet. I think if it's like your only choice, it's still a really good choice. Like this is one of the best tablets out there. But there are tablets like the iPads, like I mentioned, that do extremely well. But I will also say, like, I would much rather have a laptop than a tablet. I think I like tablets a lot, but having laptops are also extremely good, and I prefer laptops all the time over tablets. So that's another pretty big thing to keep in mind, but I don't think you can go wrong with the Galaxy Tab S7. So in terms of that pretty much covers it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. If you want to pick one of these things up, like I mentioned, links will be down in the description as well. Hit the like button, but definitely hit the subscribe button. But more importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.